there for it.
I know.
It's all right.
Hey, Dick, might be getting you involved in another situation. Yeah. But think about it, the offense happened on the county side, but the people making complaints is on the city side. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call the regular April 15th council meeting to order. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Hayes.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us here today. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the city of Tiffin and our citizens. We ask that you continue to bless us with good health and prosperity. We ask for help for us to do your will as we meet together tonight. Amen.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Hayes.
Here.
Councilmember Herniman.
Here.
Councilmember Kaler. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Reesner.
Here.
Councilmember Snee.
Here.
And Councilmember Thacker.
Here. At present, there are 6 of 7 council members in attendance. I will ask the clerk to read the petition presented to council.
We have petition number 2024-01, presented by Urban Shock, 73 Foster Parkway, to vacate an alley in the 2nd Ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio, being a 16.5-foot wide alley running east-west between lots 517 to 519 on the north and lots 533 to 534 on the south, all in Hemmings resurvey.
Petition number 2024-01 will be assigned to the Street, Sidewalks, and Sewers Committee. Are there any additions to the meeting minutes? Do we have to adjust anything since we?
No, we have
Wonderful.
things out, yes.
Any additions, subtractions, installations? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as written. We're now under committee reports. Finance Committee, Councilmember Reesner.
No report, Madam President.
Law and Community Planning, Councilmember Hayes tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. A Law and Community Planning committee meeting was held in City Chambers on April 9th, 2024, starting at 5:15 p.m. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss Mayor's request for legislation 24-18, the CDBG 2024 application, and any other business to come before the committee. Attending were committee members John Kaler, John Hayes, and Dennis Snee. Also attending were Law Director Zachary Fowler, City Administrator Nick Dutro, Councilmember Scott Hornerman, and Adam Gilmore, Development Manager at Tiffin Seneca Economic Partnership. Councilmember Kaler started the meeting by opening discussions regarding Mayor's request for legislation 24-18. City Administrator Nick Dutro advised the committee that the Community Development Block Grant provided through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and funded through the Ohio Department of Development has awarded money to the City of Tiffin for many years on a biennial basis. The grant is to be used for some sort of community project. The project must meet certain community guidelines and must serve a public good. In the past, the grant has been used for a variety of projects, including park improvements and the community kitchen program. The intent of the 2024 CDBG is for improvements to Applejack Park. Other parks in Tiffin have been improved through the grant in the past. Improving Applejack Park has ranked very high on local public interest polls. The grant is expected to net about $120,000 after administrative costs for improvements to the park. The grant could also pay for a consultant that the city has targeted to help with the park design. City Administrator Dutro introduced Parks Director Bryce Kuhn from Tiffin Parks and Recreation. Mr. Kuhn explained that the project at Applejack Park may involve installing an asphalt trail around the park and updating the playground equipment. City Administrator Dutro introduced Adam Gilmore from TSEP. Mr. Gilmore explained that TSEP handles the application of the CDBG. The deadline to apply for the grant is June 12th. TSEP polls have shown that the Applejack Park improvement project is one of the highest ranked local projects. Councilmember John Hayes moved to recommend that the law director draft legislation authorizing the city to apply for the 2024 CDBG, and Councilmember Dennis Snee seconded the motion, and the motion carried with a vote of 3-0. And with no other business to discuss, the meeting adjourned at 5:50 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Materials and Equipment, Councilmember Jones.
No reports, Madam President.
Personnel and Labor Relations, Councilmember Hayes.
No report, Madam President.
Recreation and Public Property, Councilmember Snee.
No report at this time, Madam President.
There is no report for streets, sidewalks, and sewers. Economic Development and Downtown Planning, Councilmember Horniman.
No report, Madam President.
Does anybody see a need to schedule a committee of the whole? Okay. We are now under the reports of the officers. His Honor, Mayor Lee Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Today is April 15th. Just in case you forgot, it is tax day. Just a reminder, kind of late in the day for that, but there it is. Last Monday, April the 8th, was a total solar eclipse. I hope you didn't miss it. Everything went just like we planned it. I mean, there was just the right amount of people in town. The mass wedding took place. The businesses were busy. Downtown was busy, all up and down Washington Street, and it was a good time, was had by all. On Sunday, this past Sunday, went to a scavenger hunt hosted by Calvert Senior Trenton Staub. And his senior project was to bring awareness to gun violence and to enhance the safety of Calvert schools, and he raised $1,200 in that project. That was very good. This is a busy week. The Tiffin Columbian Academic Breakfast is at Carmy's this Wednesday at 7 a.m. Also Wednesday, the members of the Shade Tree Commission will be traveling to Defiance to accept the Tree City USA Award for Tiffin. Thursday is the third Thursday Artist Stroll, starting at 5 o'clock. There's over 20 businesses and artists are going to be participating, so hopefully you'll be here for that. And Thursday is also the Tiffin Honor Baseball Game, which kicks off with the parade at 4 o'clock. That parade starts here, well, not here, but in City Lot 6 beside the Presbyterian Church, and goes down Monroe to Front Street, then to the Baseball Diamonds on Charlotte. And it should be a good time for all. Proceeds for this event go to the Tiffin Salvation Army, the Fish Food Pantry, and the Tiffin Community Non-Food Pantry. And then coming up this Saturday at 9 o'clock is the Oakley Park Cleanup. So all of those things happening. Hope you took a little note on that. Hope to see you there. So next we have a visitor from Columbia Gas, I believe, to give us a little presentation on the projects for Columbia Gas having around the city of Tiffin.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. I have just a little packet. You want to take one and pass it around? Just give you a little idea of where we're working. Great. Let that go around for a second before I get started. Hopefully I printed enough. I did a dozen. I wasn't sure. If not, we can share, right?
We'll get there.
Oh, boy.
Well, first, I wanted to just start off by thanking you all for your partnership last week through our crazy odor emergency that we all encountered. It was a little unique for us, and we weren't quite sure what we were dealing with, and we're kind of responding to it in real time. So we just wanted to thank you for your patience and all the work that you all did here, and for the partnership. Certainly, it was an interesting week for all of us. But what I'm really here today to talk about is our 4th and Washington natural gas pipeline replacement project. It's scheduled to be completed in 2 different phases. Phase 1 got started just a few weeks ago and should last approximately 3 months start to finish, barring any unforeseen delays. Essentially, what we're doing is replacing our old steel and cast iron pipe in the ground with new plastic pipe. The older lines have served us well, but they've deteriorated over time, and the cost to maintain and repair them is more than putting in the new modern pipe. The plastic pipe we're installing has several benefits, including enhanced safety measures. It has a longer lifespan than the older pipe, and also has the ability to expand and contract with the earth. As a result, the plastic pipe will require less maintenance and upkeep in the future. In terms of where Phase 1 will be, you'll see a map on page 2 of your packet that I've provided you. On Phase 1, we'll have about 115 customers who will be impacted. In total, we'll be installing about 9,000 feet of new pipe. I spoke to our crew tonight. So far, he said, as far as these projects go, it's going very smoothly. I told him to knock on wood because he said it out loud, so. The main line has been gassed up on 5th Street already. Should also be gassed up on 6th and 7th Streets this week or early next week, depending on how quickly the work goes. We're about a month and a half out from gassing up the remaining main line on the project. Once all the main line's in, we'll proceed to the service lines. They'll be completed by appointment only, and we'll have a brief service disconnection for each one, about 2 to 4 hours. In terms of Phase 2, you can see that on page 3 of your packet. This will probably begin, rough numbers, the crew said, probably about 2 to 3 months, and we will start on Washington Street there. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah.
Will you be sending notices to the residents to upgrade their service lines?
Yes, absolutely. Do you mean as far as for setting the appointment for the service line?
Yeah, so that they know that you're ready to make the appointment?
Absolutely. So the crew they'll do a number of things. They'll try to knock on the door. We also have phone numbers, and they'll also leave door tags, so we make sure that we get in touch with everybody, and it's at a time that's convenient for them.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Yeah, of course, Mayor. And as far as restoration, I forgot to touch on that. I know that's always something that everybody gets nervous about. Of course, it's going to look ugly for a little while, and things will be temporary for a little bit to maintain safety and accessibility. But as the project nears completion, we will come back and do the permanent restoration, the hard surface, the laying of the grass seed, all of that to make it look like how we found it.
Okay.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Oh, Kevin? Yes. Reister?
Are you going south and north then on Washington?
I'm not sure. I can find out that answer for you.
Okay.
He just told me we're starting on Washington, so I can get back to you on that one.
Okay, thanks.
And I will also launch more public communication as Phase 2 gets started. We weren't sure if Phase 2 was going to actually go this year or next year, but it's been confirmed it will be this year. So I will launch another round of public communication for all of you as well.
Okay, good.
Great. Well, no more questions. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, continuing with my reports, this past Saturday was the downtown cleanup, and I have Donna Gross and Perrine here to tell us a little bit about how that went.
Thank you, Mayor Wilkinson, and thank you all of us, or all of you for having us here. We appreciate a little time to report about one of the 4 points of our Main Street program is our design committee. And the design committee is responsible for making our downtown look beautiful. And one component of that is the downtown cleanups that we've been doing for what?
2018.
2018. Last year, one of our members came up with an idea, Dustin Ritchie, to have a competitive portion to the cleanup, and I'll have Brian kind of describe what that is.
Sure, well, brief history on, she said we started in 2018. A lot of you might know a man we called Bunky, Mark Rohrig, local business owner downtown. One of the things he used to do when he walked to work was pick up trash. In 2018, Rock for Life decided to do a fundraiser to help him with his battle with cancer. And one of the events that we did was a cleanup. We had almost 100 people show up that day to do a cleanup in Mark's name. He was kind of the inspiration. By no means did we ever come up with the idea of doing a cleanup. We're not taking credit for that. But Mark definitely inspired Tiffin. 2019, we had about 100 volunteers over the year through 3 cleanups. 2020 was a little downtime, obviously, because of the condition. And 2021, we started getting back up to 15, 20 volunteers. And that's when Dustin came in and offered up the Little League. It's basically, like Donna said, a competition based off of a sporting event. You show up with a team, pick up trash. We came up with the idea of doing a weight to it, and then you can win a prize. So this year we have 2 sponsors. 3 sponsors this year. We're up to 3 now. So a lot of support for this program, a lot of people coming out and picking up trash. Last year we had 150 volunteers 164, and almost 1,000 pounds of trash was picked up. And this last Saturday, we had our first one. We had 75 people show up with 267 pounds of trash just in this one event. So it's been a huge turnout. We can't appreciate everything that everybody does, and they come down and do it. It's overwhelming. It really is.
And another overwhelming portion is that the community kitchen this year has volunteered to provide lunch for everyone who comes down. So this past Saturday, we had a group of 20-some Girl Scouts. We had the Tiffin University ladies lacrosse team, and everyone was fed an amazing lunch. Mayor, you were there with Susan and a few of our council members, and it was just a really good time to clean up our downtown. What a wonderful part of our Main Street program. And I was walking around later thinking, we had Night Ranger that evening. There was an event going on at the Chandelier Room, and I just felt really proud that our downtown looked so beautiful because of our cleanups. So thank you. I do have a flyer here. I'll leave that with someone. This has the dates of the rest of our cleanups for our downtown. Everyone meets at Cherry Alley, and we'll be providing, the community kitchen will be providing lunch every time. So thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. Thank you
Any
for the
questions?
report.
Yeah.
Very good.
Questions? No? Okay.
I just want to say thank you guys so much for getting this together. It's such a wonderful program, and to see our downtown look so beautiful. I mean, there's nothing better, honestly, nothing better. So thank you.
Thank you. Over there.
Okay, and then to finish up my report, we have Public Works Superintendent Brandon Burner with a report on Public Works.
The boss for slides over there. Do I push a button there, Mayor? You want to do this?
I'm not the tech person, so.
Turns out neither am I.
Oh.
Hey, Tom, can you hit the Novo button for me, please?
Which button?
Yeah.
I'll let you do it.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just lead this off. This is like a three-part series. I'm sorry in advance. I am a very fast talker. I will try to keep myself in check, but I'm a little unapologetic about it because I'm passionate about what I do. I want to share it with you. I want to share it quickly. The other thing is that if there's something in this report that you don't understand or you don't know the acronym or I said something stupid, please don't feel like you cannot interrupt me in the middle of it. I would prefer that you did, and don't wait till the end. Just stop me right there and call me out on it, ask me a question, and let's get through it, okay? But first, and arguably most important for this series, as I said, is honoring Brenda Young. So Brenda did not know that picture was going to be up there of her. And also Brenda really loves a crowd, just so you know. So Brenda had 32 years of exemplary service. Her first day of retirement was April 1st. She started with the city as a police dispatcher, which is already, that is a tough job in and of itself. She continued her work transferring to the fire department to serve as the chief's executive secretary. And then finally, a little bit before I got there, she was at Public Works working as a dispatcher there. And I thank God every day that she was there as my battle buddy to be a part of it. I didn't think I was going to tear up. I thought I would not, but I'm so happy to have had her with me during that time because it turns out I'm a hard person to work for from time to time, and Brenda is she is like the sweetest, nicest, most compassionate person ever. But she is like a Clydesdale. She's a powerhouse for all of the things that she did to keep our organization on track. And I guarantee she did that same level of service for each of the departments she was in. If you ever, it's like, God forbid the fire department have to fuel up their vehicles in the middle of the day, because they'll show up and they'll take us by force to come say hi to Brenda, right? Because she just touches people that positively. Brenda, I love you to death. I will drive by and yell at you every time that I go down Clinton Avenue, and I hope that you come out and give me a hug. But I really, like I said, I know that you love public attention, so the mayor had a little bit more that he wanted to add on to this.
Yes. I do have a mayoral proclamation I'm not going to read the whole thing because Brandon covered a lot of it. So I'm just going to skip down to the end. After your 32 years of exemplary service and all the different departments that you worked in, which Brandon already mentioned, I do hereby proclaim that Brenda Young be honored and celebrated for her outstanding contributions to the city of Tiffin, spanning over 3 decades of dedicated service. And that we extend our best wishes to Brenda Young as she embarks on the next chapter of her journey, confident in the knowledge that her legacy of service will continue to inspire and uplift our community for years to come. And there will never be another employee number 501. Yay. So we have a little something. Because I understand you're also a master gardener.
Working on it.
So this will be something to
Aw, thank you.
help you along with that.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thanks. Thank you all. It's been a ride for sure, but I wish I could hang out and do a little bit longer with the new crew, but time to move on.
Well, we're getting some applications out ready.
Oh.
Very good. I think that's the record, 32 years. Is that the record, 32?
Got to be pretty close.
You got to be close.
I don't know, she's the best looking at it, let's be honest.
By about 4 years. Very good.
Really, thank you all. It's been great working for the city, and I was blessed the day that I got the job, and there were some challenges, and there was some crying, and there was some great times though too, and more of those. And then when he came on, that was like the icing on the cake. So he did.
Awesome.
It's been a great.
Because it was the shortest amount of time.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Brandon's going to continue his report.
Yes, so part 2 of 3, I'm gonna hit a community forest report. This will look really familiar to Liz, who made like 99% of these slides. I stole them shamelessly. I'm gonna spit them back to you guys right here. So this is our community forest report. With us today also is Mr. Michael Pinkston, who's the chairman of that committee, of the Shade Tree Commission. He will give some remarks at the end of this because he has much better things to say, but I'm going to give you some nuts and bolts of what we do with our tree program. So first thing, this Wednesday, the Shade Tree Commission and the mayor will go and get our 43rd year award and our 6th growth award, which is like going above and beyond. So we step up our game this year, and we plan to keep it that way. And that's a pretty good thing for the city. And on top of that, this year marks the first year for Heidelberg University. Actually, one of our members, Dr. Ken Baker, worked really diligently with Heidelberg to establish them as a tree campus USA, which is like the same thing, but for a college, right? So looking at you, TU folks who are out there to get them on board too, and let's get all 3 of us. But one really cool story here is Percy Lilly, who is like one of the founding fathers of kind of the trees as we see them out here, and had a heavy hand in all of that. He actually was able to be there for the Arbor Day celebration with the campus last year. He actually, unfortunately, passed away before the campus could dedicate their campus forest in his honor. So all his children were there to accept that in his name, and that's it's kind of this legacy that we continue to carry on. Proud to be a part of it. And proud that he was a member of this Tiffin community and doing good things for all of us, and hope to carry that on. One thing here, so we had our, is that you, Nick? It is, right?
I was thinking
So we had
No, it's a tree.
the Tree Commissioner Academy, which is like all the Shade Tree Commission folks who, and my arborist went, I went, we all learned a heck of a lot and are applying the principles as we speak. But this is actually a portion of that. You actually, to hug trees is actually quite a physical experience. So this is actually a warm up that we use every day for calisthenics at the shop. We have a couple really smart folks. Like I mentioned, Dr. Baker speaker. We got Dr. Carty. Both of them have published on behalf of our residents, letting us know what things to do and how to do it with our trees and with our plants. And having those folks not only helps us better, our gardens and our forests and everything, but also adds legitimacy to our program and to us as a city of Tiffin. We hit pretty heavy within the tree realm now, and not in no small part to them. Last year's Arbor Day, I would not have chosen a picture of myself. Again, Liz made these slides. However, that good-looking young lady on the left hand there is my daughter, Sophia. So one of the many running around our house. But Sophia's 5th grade class from Noble Elementary joined us last year to help plant the trees, and that was a really fun experience. The next thing I want to talk about real quickly is I could totally geek out on any of these subjects for hours. So I will not do that to you, I promise. But master plan and design, I'm going to water it down to give you the really basic version, right? So we have a scientifically based plan that, or at least we're in the very strong process of completing this plan. Where we choose the right tree for the right place and plant it at the right time. And one of the ways we do that is through an urban site index inventory. We take a number of environmental factors, what's above the grade, what's below grade, what that soil condition is, what kind of tree would fit there. Then we choose those species for diversification throughout the forest and for management, making sure that we have the right trees in the right places. And it just provides a number of benefits. The other thing we did to make it better for our residents is that we now send this letter out to the neighbors of our public trees, right? So the trees that are ours are our trees, and they're right in front of someone's house. So we'll consider them a neighbor. And we send this message out, not saying, do you want a tree or not, but we say, would you actively oppose a tree, basically? And we'll respect those wishes because we don't want to put it in a place where it won't be kind of nurtured, cherished, taken care of, and a good thing for our community. It is an investment that we are making, and we will make it in the right spot. So there's a survey to do. Believe it or not, I'm capable of working behind a computer too, and I made a little bit of a Google form there, and we've gotten, it's been small, right? We planted 41 trees last year. We had 6 responses where folks gave a yes, and we gave us an email. If they don't answer, we plant it. We just assume that it's fine, right? But with those, we were able to send them a message, and we hope this will gain momentum each year. Being able to send that message out, interface with them about the tree. If there's a drought condition, hey, can you please water our tree? Can you, we'll be back here for pruning, things like that. So, this is John and Nick. These are my arborists. The other thing that we do is we actually do our own tree plantings starting last year. We tag our own trees at the nursery. We prep our sites up to 8 months early. We put organics in there, make sure that's the right spot, square it up to help protect that from mowers and weed whackers. And then John and Nick have the skills to put those trees in the ground properly. So really cool stuff. That really took full flight last year. And this year we are just falling right back into it, and we've earned a number of grants as a result. And I want to tell you, one of the people who has a really big part in that is Mr. Michael Pinkston, again, the chairman of that Shade Tree Commission. Michael, if you have way better things to say than I do, could you please share them with us?
Certainly. So trees are the public trees, those in the boulevard and the tree lawns and the parks. Those are city assets. And it's my personal belief that it's our responsibility to manage and care for them responsibly and efficiently. The Tree Commission Academy, when I started with the Tree Commission, there was no one involved in the Tree Academy. And now we have 9 people in Tiffin who have participated and graduated from that academy. Most of the things that Brandon has shown you are things that we all learned at the academy and are putting into use. We want to make sure that when we do things efficiently, so we're not planting a tree in 2023 and then digging up the boulevard in 2024 for the gas lines. So we have a nice plan there, and we hope to work the plan and use all the best practices that we learned at that academy. Part of what we have here is an urban forest. The county is celebrating 200 years this year, and more than 200 years ago, what we look at now was a forest. And Fort Ball was a fort made out of logs along a river. Today, because it was a forest, trees like to be here, but they don't like it as much because they get to live next to concrete and brick buildings and asphalt, which is not the environment that is natural to them. So we have some work to do to make sure that they like the environment that they're in. And we want to make sure that we can help the people of our community understand the value of trees for modern living. Trees have several values. They provide shade. Who on a hot August day goes to the park and likes to stand in the sun when it's a nice sunny day? We always look for the shade under the tree. When we do Arbor Day events, I have the kids who are waiting for us, who are standing under trees. I have them come out into the sun while we do our event, and then they go, and I ask them where they would like to be, and they want to be back in the shade. We can't have shade if we don't have trees. Trees provide 30% of the oxygen for the world. The other 70% comes from the ocean, in case you didn't know that. But think about just the 30%. It doesn't work quite that way, but think about not being able to take a full breath. You can only take 70% of the air you want to breathe because we don't take care of our trees. They have a financial value to our community and to the homeowners. Property values are higher for houses that have trees. Communities who have a good management plan for trees and have healthy trees in their community, oftentimes the houses in those communities sell for higher values than those folks who don't. So we try to tell that story. We try to work with Public Works, and I think it's our job as the commission to really be the cheerleaders for Public Works and the work that they do. That's it. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me? That's the best answer ever. We like silence after they ask for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And there will be plenty of time for questions later too. If you decide you have a burning desire to know more about trees and trees in our community, I will tell you, please join us on 2 Fridays from now at Stalter Park at the corner of Clinton and Ohio Avenue. Brenda, you're right down the road. I expect to see you there, 10 o'clock. We are planting a tree that is coming from ODNR, their 75th anniversary. They are planting a tree in every county. I'll be honest with you, that tree that they sent us is a little tiny, but we are excited for a free tree and a chance to nurture that little Charlie Brown tree to the fullest extent that we can. So, but no, it should be a good event. It'll be a little bit smaller event, but we will have, I think, hopefully representation from the city, from the county, from ODNR, and Brenda will be there, so you can say hi to her again. So please join us. And again, the other thing is, during the Heritage Festival, during the school days on that Friday, we will do a second Arbor Day event with the kiddos. So we will plant some more trees, and we will do that.
One last thing, I forgot. All the flower pots, the hanging baskets, the flower beds at the city, other flower beds are all managed by the volunteers from the Tree Commission. We get the plants, we sort the plants, they take care of the plants, they water the plants. The volunteers who water those plants for 26 weeks, 7 days a week, for 3 hours a night, they go up and down Washington Street and make sure all of those plants are watered. And they're all volunteers organized by a member of the Tree Commission who does all of that work. I can't begin to tell you how grateful we need to be to Christy Weiser and her team of people who do that. Because of that, Christy also thought there needed to be better Christmas decorations, and you saw those last year. Now I'm done.
Excellent. That's good. Very, very good point. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so that's all the tree stuff we want to hit for our community forestry report. Again, Liz, thank you for the slides. And then I'm going to kind of break into the more formal portion of just the public works, right? So we do trees, but we do a lot more. Madam President, I really did not realize that people didn't necessarily know who I am. I haven't met a whole lot of you in person, and the folks who I have, you probably don't care anymore. So I wanted to let you know that I didn't get picked for this job just because I look good in green. So who I am, I'm a Tiffin native. I graduated Columbia in 2005. I graduated West Point in 2009. I'm with a bachelor in civil engineering. I was an Army officer for about 9 years, transitioned back to civilian life here in Tiffin. Matt Watson at the time was the assistant engineer, invited me to come, as you know, he said, do you have anything better to do? No, heck, let's do this. And so through that process, learned a little bit about the engineering shop by working under Matt, under Mario Lavorovich first, and then under Matt, earned my PE license as an engineer, and then got the chance to come work as a superintendent for the Public Works Department. Been doing this for about 4.5 years. So some things I'm still growing into, and it's a challenge every day, but it's a really good one, and we're doing really good things. So my agenda is really simple. Who we are, what we do, what we did, and what we're gonna do. So pretty simple. Really quick intro. Our mission has not changed, but I wanna focus on what we're always looking at is how do we proactively maintain our infrastructure. There's a lot of white noise, and I'm sure that you all can appreciate that. There's a lot of day-to-day wants and needs and all those things that happen, but how do we fight through those and answer those questions, but also get ahead of the things that we need to be looking out for in the next, 1, 2, 5, and so many years. And so, that's really what you'll try to, that's my common theme out in my role, is to try to sort through that and make that happen. A little bit this year, Laura Young. So Brenda actually trained her replacement, Laura. No relation. We just really didn't want to have to buy a new nameplate. So thank you, Laura, for making that easier on us. Laura has been wonderful, and Brenda did a great job training her. So all in all, it's been a really seamless transition. We have a few promotions. Other than that, you're looking at 15 total people, including myself, plus Timmy Parkins, who is one of our seasonal workers who used to work for us, who retired. We get him kind of part-time, hanging out, helping out downtown most of the time. I'm not gonna read all these things. I don't expect you to read all these things. We do a lot of stuff. Basically, if it doesn't involve putting handcuffs on people or putting out a fire, we probably do it. We don't do finances either, Kathy. I don't claim to. Street stewards, we got the tree guys, we got the electricians who do our traffic signals and our decorative lamps and other type of maintenance portions. We have our own mechanic who helps take care of our fleet, which is pretty substantial. So just a real quick synopsis. I'm going to throw some statistics at you for those of you who were here last year. These are the same categories. I'm going to point out 2 things on this slide. The first is at top right. Snow and ice removal for this last year was like 1/3 of the year before, which was like 1/2 of the year before it. So we're getting like nothing, which I think everybody kind of appreciates. Like, that's cool, right? It's nice on the roads, it's nice on our vehicles, it's nice on our guys to have more time at home and not have to be in for these crazy storms. But I will say that we're going to pay the price in experience. You can't take somebody and train them how to do, a city route, put them in a big old dump truck and throw them on some of the small streets in town and have them do it effectively and then hit a whole route over the course of 3 hours in the middle of the night or in the middle of traffic. You just don't learn that from a book or from looking at a map. So that's something that we will in the next coming years already have to fight as we train younger guys. It's going to be harder if we don't get more chances to do that. Although, like I said, it is nice not to have to be out there quite as constantly. So the other thing is my street swept went down. I told you there's some good news on street sweeping this year, but I will say my sewer went out for about 2.5 months. I had to wait for the repairs to come back. It's not something that everybody can do, and that was really painful. So I will be asking for money for a new street sweeper as long as the technology, the equipment, the price all lines up next year. I will be asking for that, but you'll see that in the future. More statistics from last year. We had, on that top left there, Ohio 811 locates. So when you call before you dig, we're the dudes who do the guys we don't have any gals marking these. It's just Dwayne, and Dwayne's on leaves with Travis now, right? Those guys go out there with the spray paint and they put that green spray paint down, and it's not a St. Patty's 5K run, as some might have confused it for in the past. It is actually the sewer line. And we had over 1,000 more of those tickets come in. Actually, our electricians, they marked there too. They have a handful of wires in the ground too. Over 1,000 more last year from Omnifiber. I'm really happy to hear that they plan to go overhead and kind of take that burden off us a little bit. That's a lot of paint to put down. One other item to note here, the sinkhole repairs and asphalt repairs, both those things on the very bottom there. Because the weather was not quite as cold and snowy as it had been, we took the time to really get after digging and taking on some of these sinkholes that exist. They're all over the place. This isn't Florida, right? We're not losing whole houses, more than likely. But we have some things that just need fixed that have been around for, 100 years that just need done. And so figuring those out has been a challenge, but the guys really stepped up to the plate last year. They also stepped up to the plate to repair those. So we do our trenches. Anything that we can do in-house for asphalt repairs, we do, which saves us quite a bit of money per ton because it costs a lot to have a contractor come out with and do all handwork. And so our guys get out and do that themselves and did a great job last year. I estimate about 32 grand that we saved by doing them in-house. These are things that we had to dig up anyway, and we're going to have to put new pavement on before we could finish and call it done. So pretty cool. Again, not going to geek out here, but crack sealing, I just want to highlight, this is just a graphical representation of what our plan is. We crack seal years 1, 2, 5, and 9. We started that in 2020. Before that, we had maybe a pilot program, I guess you could call it. It was kind of like, well, this is a cool thing, and there's some cracks on this road, and let's go try it, right? And then it kind of morphed into, now we have a road and bridge levy. Now we know what years we got it. We went back and did some historical data, got it back from Watson over in the engineer's office, and started applying it from a long-term maintenance standpoint. And we're already seeing the benefits of that. We're seeing the ability to determine, what's a maintenance failure and versus what is, right? So now that we're taking care of roads, those failures aren't happening. It's not just because we didn't crack seal it the first year or the second year. It's because, and stop a crack in its path, it's because something maybe further wrong and more comprehensive methods of repairing that need to be done. And like I said, just protecting that investment of our dollars. I know Matt Watson comes in here and talks about all the paving that he's doing through that levee, and it's awesome. We want to do everything that we can to protect that and make it last as long as we can. So that's that. Couple cool pieces of, so I get random spurts and fits of equipment coming in because there's like long lead times on some of it, and then like the excavator there showed up in like 2 months. So I got 3 awesome new trucks last year, a new single axle dump at the top there, which we used for plowing, that new tree truck to replace our old one, make sure that we're staying safe and getting all those trees pruned properly, and then a new excavator that's 2 sizes up. The guys told me from day one that we need a bigger excavator, and after I've seen us put that to use, they were 100% right. It's awesome, makes us far more effective at our job and beating up the equipment a lot less than we had trying to work with a smaller piece of equipment. I got some new siding on the building this year, and we finished replacing our roof, so that we've dressed up our digs a little bit out there. It's looking nice. Also, we're in the process of getting a new sign up. We got kind of flooded. It would have been more of a pontoon boat to show that sign in the last couple of weeks, but we will. That's forthcoming. I'll show you a picture next year, I promise. I'm going to highlight a couple things on these slides here. I'm going to kind of zero you in with words here as to what we're looking at. So I'm going to zero you in first to the top 2 photos on the right. I think if you were here at Matt's presentation, he talked about Sandusky Street's culvert and some of the issues that we had in that. Downstream of that, we actually had a complaint from the neighboring resident who said, we have a lot of flooding, we have a lot of issues. I know that we looked at the culvert inspection forms, and we saw there's some issues with the downstream channelization. And we actually went in there, got the vegetation removed. Actually, that picture in the middle, it says after brush removal. If I had taken that before brush removal, you just would have seen honeysuckle, right? That's pretty much all it was. And so by the time we got in there, opened it up, put some riprap along the outside bank, removed the downstream obstruction, a far better flow, and that should help with that. It'll help make that culvert replacement even better than what it would have been had we just done the project here when Matt knocks that out with his folks. The other thing is that bottom center picture there, the West Market Bridge deck, right? It's right down the street here. If you've ever seen us, it looks like we're painting leopard spots on there. We drag a chain, we determine, it's like super like hillbilly engineering, right? We drag a chain, but that's how you do it, right? That's legitimately. You drag a chain, you listen for a different tonality. When you hear that, that means that the concrete has a problem. And we square up those holes, pop it out. We put this thing called Techcrete in there, which is like a goop. I don't know how else to describe it. You warm it up, it's a goop. It goes in there and it seals it off and stops. This is an ODOT bridge. We're responsible for the bridge deck maintenance, but it's getting to the point where we've invested the time to make it good for ourselves, but also have invested enough to say something to ODOT. So I know Matt actually escalated to ODOT District 2 and said, hey, what's going on here? This is how much money we spent toward it. This is what our guys are doing down in Public Works. And they actually came back and said they will reevaluate and take a look at it based on that. So rather than just coming up there and saying, crying about potholes, we had a really good justification for that because of the work we put in. I just want to hit this one really quick because I'm totally going to show you this next year because it's a 2024 thing. But while I was on paternity leave this year, I was actually on paternity leave last year and this year. My wife Kendra bought me a set of golf clubs, so hopefully we won't have that problem again and get a new hobby. But Paul Klopp took charge of the shop while I was out. And what happened, he kind of knocked out all the tests that I needed done, and then decided to kind of go on this blitz on our curbs and gutters. And so what's interesting is when we have a lot of snow, right? If my guys are doing it right, they're getting all the way to the curb. And sometimes that takes people off because it puts the snow way back there. And sorry, not sorry kind of thing, right? Because we've got to get it off the street. But when you don't have a lot of snow, all that stuff that's sitting in the curb does not get thrown back off. And so it had been piling up for really 2 years. Even though we take the street sweeper through twice a year, it's still hard to get that heavier amount of debris. So thanks to the Tiffin PD, thanks to Paul for spearheading that. They got a marathon worth of lane miles in debris removal, 26 miles in lane miles. So that's 13 and 13.1 on either side, right? So, but tons of stuff came out of that, giant piles of debris, very, very good stuff. So, moving over to the sewer side, I'm going to point you up on the top of the screen, the second from the right, there's this. You can see we're inside of a sewer line right there, and it's lined with shotcrete is what that's called. It's actually right downtown. We had a brick sewer lined with shotcrete. It actually connects Washington Street, goes by the old optometry place, back behind the post office, and comes back out on Monroe Street. That's I can't hazard a great guess at how old that sewer is. I really couldn't tell you, but I'm going to guess let's just say 80 years, right? We were having a little bit of issues on it. We want to make sure this is going to last a long time because it's a pretty important sewer. Obviously, like if you can't tell necessarily from the picture, but I am standing inside of that sewer to take the picture. That is not like a small sewer. That is a large sewer. So keeping that alive for another 50 to 75 years was really important, and that was a big win. The other thing I'm going to tell you, and it's difficult to see on the screen, and so I'm just going to describe to you what it is. On the bottom middle, it says before and after, right? That is our sewer camera truck. Before I think 2019 is when we bought our sewer camera, and it's like it is not the most robust sewer camera, but it definitely gets the job done for us and is an important tool in our toolkit. And it would reside in whatever truck bed was available at any given time. Luckily, the fire department had handed an ambulance off to the police department, who used it as their SRT vehicle, who just replaced their SRT vehicle. And of course I said, yes, give me that thing. It was, besides they took the morphine out and they took any of the arms equipment out from the SRT team, and they just gave this bare bones ambulance. We took it and turned it into, and by we, Travis Droll and Damian Sisko are two guys on my team. I just said, hey, this is what we should generally have. Let's do it. And they made it into a very, very respectable unit that we will use this year very extensively and hopefully for many years to come. And that's huge in terms of diagnosing our sewers and getting ahead of the power curve. So I would estimate that that's about $200,000 minimum that I would have paid on top of what we paid to do this, just to get that done with the cameras that we currently had, let alone if you went for a whole new unit. So that's a really big win. I will say the guys are most excited because it has air conditioning in the back, so it's a lot better than sitting out there in the sun trying to see on the screen, But it's a great machine, and they did a heck of a job. This one here is, so I know you've probably heard Matt Watson say long-term control plan about 400 million times, because we are in the thick of it with the EPA, right? We are just knocking that thing out. He's doing wonderful things over there. It is a lot of money, it is a lot of effort, it is a lot of planning and then soon to be construction. But we get to have a really important part in this project this past year with backflow preventers. For long story short, if it's within a 100-year floodplain that that river water can come back in, then it has to have a backflow preventer on it. We had 26 that would qualify, and 6 of them did not have backflow preventers on them. And in the process of figuring this out, we said, well, let's Public Works, let's take this project on. We had a consultant do like an initial assessment and kind of talk us through it, and eventually they kind of handed it off to us to finish out in the field and field fit and design everything for ourselves. You can see CSO4 there is actually one of them. And there's the before picture with some broken pipe. It's not looking so hot. Afterwards, we had a head wall installed. You can see this like green pipe there with a clamp in the outside. That actually bottom picture was that inline check valve. It's like a neoprene sleeve that has a diaphragm inside of it that allows water to come out but not to come back in, right? So that's generally what we did at these 6 locations. I think one of them we had a flap gate. We had 2 head walls installed, flexing our concrete muscle a little bit. And at the end of the day, that was the project. And we had slated about $1.59 million, and we actually cost the city about just under $100,000 to do it. So that's $1.5 million in savings. Now, I'm not going to tell you that we're so bad at figuring out what it is that $1.5 million, like there's more to it than just that. But I will say that is a huge win because we took it on. And the other thing about taking that on is that number 26 isn't going anywhere, right? So those backflow preventers do not last forever. And by this project, we were able to learn how to do backflow preventers rather than being scared of it or shying away and having to call a contractor every time we do this. And in reality, we are very, very capable and did a great job. The other thing about this, which is even more cool in my opinion, is the top left picture there. We added a maintenance project that actually started in 2009. So for those of you familiar with it, you know sewer separation happened for several years. Sewer separation project, or phase 3, took all of the combined sewers around like Greenfield Street, up at the pit stop by East Market and East Perry, right? All of those combined sewers turned into storm sewers, and then the new sanitary sewers were added, right? So all that storm water from that portion of town came down the pipes that were associated with storm flow only. We got it out of the sanitary sewer, right? Awesome, right? Let's wave the banner on the aircraft carrier, mission accomplished, right? And then it got right in front of the Eagles, and you see that little red line there. It actually went right back into the sanitary sewer because there were cross connections found, right? So all that effort, time, money, back in 2009 was when they built the plans. They probably constructed it over the next 2 years. All of that was all for naught because it came right back into that system. The engineers, us, at Public Works and the sewer plant all recognized this and wanted to kill it. This is something that's been a thorn in our side since we kind of like stepped up and learned that this is what's going on. And so special thanks to them. We worked with Heidelberg because the cross connections were actually coming from a couple of really old Heidelberg buildings, whereas like one random toilet in the corner of the building was plumbed in. They worked with us, helped us find that. The engineers worked with, they went through with individual homeowners to make sure that they were clear. Really a really team effort to be able to get all that stormwater out of there. And so the stormwater now goes to the river. And so that was 12, 13 years in the making, but a huge win. In my opinion, a really important thing. You would not have known that, right? Like no one really knew that until we started digging in. It's like, what is happening here? And I'm really, really proud that we were able to accomplish that. So both really big things. Again, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out on sewers. I'll turn on to the next. So other cool things. My specialties, so arborist, my arborist section, they finished the 2nd of 6 last year. We split the city up into 6 sectors for pruning. They actually just finished their 3rd this year, so one per year, so we can make it all around town every 6 years. And we also got a bunch of money, which is exciting. So we'll use that money in the future here. City electrician did a couple traffic signal updates. They also replaced. Well, they're in the process of replacing. We still haven't had all of them because it's a long lead time, but 6 different, like between decorative poles and like the walk, don't walk. I will tell you at South Sandusky and Miami Street, over the last 18 months, we've had 3 of those walk, don't walk poles hit. And I'm not talking on the same spot. Like that's like 3, we're waiting for the 4th corner because that was 3 separate corners. So this is like a constant battle. There's actually a line in my budget this year. I worked with Kathy. We put a line in the budget this year so that it doesn't affect all of the other things we're trying to get done to try to fix all these problems. We get the insurance money back and that happens, but that process does not happen overnight because some of these, they can be months and months and months of time to get them back. So. We did some cool things in downtown. I will say that's a picture of snowflake removal. That's probably the most snow removal we did all year. And special thanks to the Sentinel students for helping us out with that. And Timmy Parkins, I mentioned him earlier, but the work he does in downtown is really awesome. He's a great asset to have back part-time and a wonderful person to have on our team. These are a bunch of projects, right? All kinds of stuff that we're going to be doing some of these already started. What I want to do is, so the Eastland Park sewers, that first one on the sewer side, we did Riverview Estates, so these are just like subdivision names, right? It's just like general areas. So Riverview Estates, if you're not familiar with that, we did that one last year, like Longfellow, Gale, Gary. We're actually lining sewers from that this year. Eastland Park is over by like Spaeth up to the park. So Lincoln, Linda, Bryden, things, those names, I think Parkview is on that list. Areas where we have sewer problems, we know the sewer's not great, we know it's not specifically labeled on the long-term control plan, or at least not for many years, and we need to do something. Traditionally, the Public Works Department did not do those larger projects, right? That was all kicked to the engineer's office. But I don't know if you realize it, but the engineers have a little bit on their plate. And I don't want to wait for them to have time to do it. We need to take control and make sure that we're getting these things done for ourselves too, if it's the right time for the city. And it looks like it is. So just so you have an idea of what that looks like for us, it's a year, the first year is investigation. The second year is lining. So this year is lining for Riverview Estates. Anything that we can line that we don't have to dig up and have that life-changing emotional event for people, we're going to line it. We're going to extend that to that service life. That will be next year for Eastland Park. And then that year 3, so 2 years out from now, would be the full excavation. So doing the real deal, pulling the pipe out that needs to be replaced and actually replacing it. The other thing you'll see there is programmatic sewer maintenance. So we're really working that the programmatic portion, right? Doing routine. Colonel Brian Hallberg, one of my old bosses, always said, do the routine things routinely. And that's really what we're trying to establish. And so you'll see a number of things on there that we're doing. We got, of note, we just found out last week that we did get OPWC money. If you're not familiar with Ohio Public Works Commission money, we used to use it every year. Matt would take it and put it towards the street paving project. It became a bit of a hindrance, which it's awesome to get money, like there's 0 interest grants and or 0 interest loans and grants. The problem is that it's on the state's fiscal timeline, right? So we would have to start paving in like July or August, which is a little bit painful when it gets to be October. So we took over that money to put towards sewers, and we actually just got the first $500,000 approved, $450,000 in 0 interest loan, and $50,000 of grant money for our lighting project. So that's pretty cool. I want to tell you, so my wife told me that I had to tell you about the CSO sensor pilot program because I won't stop talking to her about it and she's annoyed with me. But we right now we go out and we pop lids for CSOs. Does everybody know what a CSO is or no? That's okay. A combined sewer is a sewer that takes storm and sanitary. A combined sewer overflow is the physical place where that overflows into the river when you get too much water in it. All right, and so we go out once every other week and we pop the lid, we make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do. If it's not doing what it's supposed to do, then at that time we'll take care of it. And sometimes it's been overflowing when it shouldn't be, which is a report to the EPA. We clean it, it happens. It's just the nature of the beast of having a sewer system that is like this. My goal is to put sensors in those things to not only do our job better, but also to eventually take over what we are paying consultants for to use sensors. So rather than sit here and act like it's this new age crazy thing, like most of this stuff is pretty available and we can do it. I'm confident of it, but it's going to be a little bit of a time. I think there's 4.5 years left on the contract for the current sensors. I hope to be taking that over in 4 years. So if you're still around here, then hopefully I'll have good news and my wife won't have to hear about it anymore because we'll all be working. Last thing, I stole that right off of Matt's. I don't just steal everybody else's graphics. A lot of these pictures were mine, but I did steal a lot of stuff to try to drive home the point. Matt started beating that drum with people. I will beat that drum as well, like the Energizer Bunny. There's a lot of sewer work coming up. It is going to be painful, but it is all for good cause, right? You don't see it every day. I do see it every day, and so we fix sewers, and I'm glad we do. Right? If you don't see it every day, trust me, it's a great thing that we're doing. Trying to dig once, right? And I know you don't see us behind the scenes, you don't see Matt behind the scenes, and Kevin over at the sewer plant, but we are trying to dig once as best we can. If we can afford to do it all at once, let's get it done so we're not hitting these neighborhoods once every 5 years or once every 10 years or whatever. Let's try to get it done. From the street side, I'm gonna just zoom you down to the bottom where it says, so I tried to put a cool name on it because I kept saying pre-street paving repairs and it was like way too verbose, right? But street paving, extra emphasis, and then just add a D at the end. So we'll call it the speed program. The red stuff is stuff that we're kind of still shuffling, trying to get really good at, that we've done, but we're not great at. Like I want to be crushing. I want to be graduate level. The black stuff are things that we're doing really well. We're working and really coordinated with the street paving. It's not necessarily, you'll see some sewer stuff on there, primarily because no one really likes to go cut through brand new asphalt to fix a sewer that we could have caught beforehand, right? We got that fancy camera van. I'm not going to tell you that it never happens, right? Because it does. But we want to try to avoid that at all costs. So that's the streets and sewers. Other projects, we have things like the city arborists who will have a full public tree inventory. We got secured about $65,000. Well, not about. We've secured $65,000 in grants this year for our trees and our urban forest. About early next year, I'll bring to you the master planning design and the urban forestry management plan, and I will explain to you ad nauseum. You'll love it. I will tell you all about trees. That's not true. I'll tell you enough about trees. Councilman Snee will be giving me a high five in the background.
That's right. I was
Totally missed. Sorry. We also have the city electrician who I've been like saying this for years. We finally have the money here from thanks to this support from this organization or from this body here. East Perry and Circular, Melmore and Circular, and then Westmark and Hopewell got smoked by a vehicle earlier this year, so that one got added to the list as well. So big things afoot on our traffic signals. I'm excited about that. So let's see what else. I want to say some thank yous, right? So there is the side of that van that I showed you. We took the police markings off.
I saw this vehicle, and I even had written down, what does the outside of this look like? Because I saw an odd vehicle, and I said, what is that?
Yeah, so we put some like winky lights and stuff like that. They disabled the siren. I'll tell you what, the first day we got this thing, about lost my mind with a lot of siren blaring in my shop. But we disabled the siren pretty quickly, so that's good. It was mostly it's Brenda. Honestly, she just snuck out there every single time, so we had to get rid of it. But I want to say thank you to the engineers and to the sewer plant. We work constantly. We're like constantly in Zoom because we're talking to consultants. We're constantly working out in the field together, and we are all pulling on the same oars, trying to do great things for the community. And I appreciate having those guys and their crews every day. Police and fire did some awesome stuff besides giving us the hand-me-downs. I appreciate their help every day too. Shade Tree Commission, we already talked about them ad nauseum, but I will say this is where I was going to say the same thing about Christy Weiser. We used to do like the garland around the poles, and this year we didn't hardly have to lift a finger, and Christy and her team did everything. And first of all, that's awesome from our standpoint because we get a lot of work done, and second of all, it looked amazing. So that's awesome. ODNR Urban Forestry is like Steph Miller. If you've never heard her name, she's a wonderful person who works like for urban forestry and teaches us all kinds of things, which is why we are moving in the right direction so quickly in trees. And NCOSC, if you're not familiar, it's the old Kroger out there. I did not know the acronym, so I put it on there in case you did not. North Central Ohio Educational Services Center. They hosted the Tree Commission Academy for us, so we just showed up and they had like a beautiful place there, and we had people from probably 10 or 15 communities come in, and it was just a really great foot forward for Tiffin. It was not only was it great to be there to learn, but it was also great to put that foot forward to all these other communities, and it's pretty awesome. The Miller Pipeline crews and the AEP crews, we had some really good interactions with them. We work pretty well with all these folks who were also in our streets working, but they had really helped us this year. And I'm very appreciative. Mayor and the administration, thank you so much for everything you guys do. I'm constantly whining, and I appreciate you guys listening and putting me in the right direction. City Council, thank you for your service. I know this is not, you probably weren't planning on just listening to random people like me talk so much. So I appreciate you dealing with that. To my Tiffin residents out there, there's like 4 or 5 people every year who just say thank you to say thank you. I don't mean they say thank you to ask a follow-on question. I don't mean they say thank you because while they're telling us we're number one with a certain finger. I mean, they legitimately care. They'll write a letter, they'll call in, they'll send an email, or they'll just stop us in the street and say thank you. And I really, really, really appreciate those people. That is not the most common thing. And I believe it or not, no one on my crew is in it for the glory. No one's like, hey, I am standing knee deep in sewage for the glory, right? No one's saying that, right? So you can tell us how much you don't like us, and it's really just par for the course. That's okay. But the people who say thank you, I definitely appreciate them, and I want to just at least make a public announcement for that. To my crew, day in, day out, again, I can be tough to work with. I want more and more and more and more, and they continue to fight that battle and help us get there to the best solution that we can get with that crew that we have. And finally, to my family, I have like 90 kids, so I had to like make a really small font. who was with the mayor. The mayor saw this and he said, there's actually room for a couple more now that I've figured some font size. That's not true. That is not true. But my wife, Kendra, who is just amazing, and then, and puts up with, I mean, she I think she told me, but she was like, told me the other day, like, that she was so embarrassed because she was driving down the road and she was on like a township road and she's like, hey, that's a really good berm edge. Like, she was right. It was really nice. Whatever township went, they did a great job. But Ella, Sophia, Matthew, Bo, Hope, and Patrick, they deal with, like I said, I believe it or not, I take this, I'm really passionate about it. I bring it home with me. I take it personally. I think about it a lot and sound it off of them. Maybe not the really little ones, but all of them help out in some way. So thank you to them. And with that, I'll ask for your questions. One thing is this picture. I thought it was kind of cool. So I saw Matt's presentation on the first, which is his picture on the bottom right. On the top left, that was actually my questions picture. My question slide picture last year, which is from the top of our bucket truck, looking over the South River Trail after my guys cleared up all the underbrush and pruned the trees and made it look nice in preparation for the project. And then, like I said, you saw that at Matt's presentation on the bottom right there when he get the contract finished, putting that beautiful overlook in there. So kind of cradle to grave, what this is, what we do, and these are the pretty ones. These aren't just the things stuck underground. So with that, do you have any questions?
I do want to verify that Brandon does think about this 24/7. I got a text from you a Sunday morning asking me about something. I can't remember what it was, but hopefully.
The mayor mentioned taking some graffiti off.
Oh, yeah.
And I sent him a text message and I told him that we'd send a work order so he could fill it out and we'll take credit for it. So
Yeah. We got her done.
I can verify that because one time I was at Reno's and he was in the booth behind me and we got to talking about the grant for the urban forestry project. So he means it. And then he sent me immediately from his booth via email the project, so, and the grant. So I think it's wonderful what you guys do. I know you mentioned things, so I'm not just saying thank you because you say you appreciate it, but we do sincerely appreciate all that you guys do. You are the unsung heroes of our city. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for you and all your crew and all that you do and all the money that you save. That I don't think the residents really appreciate all the money saved that goes still back in their pockets that's because of the work that you do. Appreciate that.
Law Director?
What was the time for the Arbor Day event?
10 a.m. at Stalter Park, which is the corner of Old Clinton, Ohio.
Yeah.
10 a.m. on Friday the 26th.
Thank you. This isn't for you, this is for Brenda. Brenda, how long have you lived on Clinton Avenue?
22 years. My husband had it.
All right, well, I apologize. I grew up on Clinton, played on Stalter all the time as a kid, so. I was a little kid, so I plead the fifth on anything that was done 1992 to 2003.
Yes, thank you.
I'll echo Cheyenne's comments. Certainly, Public Works are unsung heroes. They do so much for the community, and between Brandon's crews and Matt's crews, we really have some departments, and really all of our departments try to do this, but constantly they're trying to find ways to bring more processes in-house, so we're not hiring these things out constantly, saving taxpayer dollars. It's incredibly important. I did want to mention quickly, Brandon mentioned some of the updates they did over at their shop. We were able to leverage some funds from NOPEC last year that went into that, so about half of that overall project was paid for. With some grant funds coming back from NOPEC. And some of your guys even did some of the work out there, if I'm not mistaken. No, I am mistaken. I apologize. But yeah, that was a cost savings, and we were able to give more life to that building out there. So that's all great news.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, the electrician puts the lights up.
There we go. Electrician.
You have
well,
LED
hey.
lights up there, which is pretty awesome now.
Thanks to Steve.
We have our own
and Mason
electrician,
for
and we
that.
would go out there to try to hook up the plows, and it'd be 10 degrees out there, and you're trying to find it, and you can't see it. It's like, please, Steve, put lights up here. They did. They look great.
And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Brandon.
Don't feel like you have to hang around for the rest of everything, but you can. Just don't feel like you have to.
All right.
The exit. I got babies to help put down and all that stuff. Plus I gotta go pick up Brenda. Thank you very much, sincerely.
Okay. Clerk of Council Ann Forrest.
No report this evening, Madam President.
Director of Finance Kathy Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few things that I'd like to talk about tonight. First, there are 3 ordinances up for third reading that you'll be voting on tonight. They're ordinances 2424, 2425, and 2427. And I just wanted to say 2424 is we needed a little bit extra money in the State Highway Improvement Fund to help pay for the West Market Street Safety Study. And then in Committee of the Whole, 2425, we did talk a little bit about the TIF financing. And that was, we had a lot more revenue with the TIF than what we budgeted for. So the more revenue that we get through the TIF, the more we have to share. So we're putting a little bit more money back in the budget there. And the 2427 was, the police department sold some scrap metal and they wanted the money for that put back into their budget to spend. There are 2 suspensions this evening, ordinance 2433 and 2435. 2433 has to do with the bond payment, which we were talking about in Committee of the Whole. And one of the things just to remember about the bond payments is usually you have to figure out which fund is going to actually pay for the payment. The bond payment itself, where I actually show that payment, is not self-funded. So you have to transfer funds to that fund in order for there to be any money to make the payment. So that was something that we passed in a previous meeting, but we left out the portion approving the transfer. So I cannot make any transfers or anything without council's approval. So that's why we're adding that to that. And then 2435, we just got the county settlement for the first half of the year. And the election expense was a little bit more than what we had put in the budget, so we're asking for a little bit more to pay for that. Does anybody have any questions about any of those? Okay. I also have the March financial report for you this evening. So total receipts for the month were $5,117,925.48. Total expenses for the month were $5,101,005. The general fund unencumbered balance is $4,510,135.70. Income tax receipts for March 2024 were $988,167.79. When comparing that to March of 2023, we were up by $33,281.64. Year-to-date, the income tax receipts are up 3.94%. The 0.25% portion of income tax receipts that was transferred into Fund 215 for public streets for March was $120,516.92. The unexpended balance for all funds is $38,131,668.97, which is the same as the bank balances for the same time period. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Reesner.
I move to accept the finance director's report and bank reconciliation for month ending March 2024.
Thank you. There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilmember Snee.
I second that motion.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to accept the finance director's report and accept the bank reconciliation. Is there any discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Usually do voice vote, that's why I'm.
Oh, shoot, I'm so sorry.
I can do it, but.
So in this situation, I would just ask. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying yay. Yes?
Yes.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, thank you, sorry. Okay, Director of Law, Zachary Fowler.
Yeah, thank you. I do just have something for you. Couple of items. One, we had talked before, just general reminder, your financial disclosures for ethics is due May 15th if you haven't turned those in yet. The other was the public records training. No, I talked about it last meeting. I just wanted to follow up if anyone had a desire to ask me to be your designee for training. I haven't picked a date yet, but there's a couple coming up over the next couple of months. If anybody wants it, just let me know. I don't know if you have your.
I always love to get, go through training.
Well, I guess all I'm saying is I can serve as your designee. I'm going to go through the training. We just offer if somebody wants that, if you have it coming up. Kevin?
I know we did this last year. Brent went for us, so it's common. I went through the training, but I'm happy for you to go ahead and designate it for me.
Yeah, it's just for anyone that needs it. And I think in the past, he passed a resolution, but I would say, I don't even know if that's necessarily needed. You could probably just ask me to go, but reach out, let me know if you want. There's dates coming up in June, August, October, December, so I'm just trying to plan. I just want to know that if I sign up for it, that if one of you wanted me to go for you, we just have that in the works. If you've done it already, you're fine. You don't have to worry about having me do it. And then the only other thing I had is I thought I'd just share with you. So I had a seminar for some civil law training through the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association on Friday. There's just kind of two things that I thought was worth sharing to you all. One is the first presentation was about some clean energy tax credits. This is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Believe it or not, we don't pay taxes as a city, but through this federal law, there are some tax incentives that the city has. I shared those with the mayor and city administrator of what those are, but there's some clean energy things that if the city were to do, add solar panels to like a city structure or energy efficient vehicles, electric vehicles, things like that, those kind of measures, there's actually money that we could get out of that. So I've shared it with city administration, but just if anyone wants that material, let me know, I'll email it to you. The other one that they talked about that I thought might be interesting for you all is on tobacco. And it's not, the law in and of itself isn't really probably that interesting for you, but what's being challenged right now is the extent of which the home rule authority that you have, to what extent that goes. So through the Ohio Constitution, essentially city governments, you're allowed to, pass all the ordinances that we do. There's some limitations to that. And what's being tested right now between the city of Columbus and the state is the extent of how far that goes. So city of Columbus passed a ban on the sale of flavored tobacco, and the state of Ohio came back and said, we don't really like that. And they passed a state law placing some limitations on it. And so now Columbus and Ohio are kind of fighting over what can the city actually do. So it'll have a greater impact once the dust settles and once the Ohio Supreme Court weighs in. It'll just give us more clarification on what all, as city council you can do. That's a couple years in the future, to be honest. It'll be a while before we know. And that is all I have. Have any questions?
Okay, thank you. We are now under written communications.
Thank you. We have Finance Director's request for legislation, number F24-22, to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the council clerk budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation F24-22 has been prepared for tonight's meeting as Ordinance 24-35.
And Finance Director's request for legislation, number F24-23, to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the Police and Parks Department, or budgets, I'm sorry.
Finance Director's request for legislation F24-23 has been prepared for tonight's meeting as Ordinance 24-36.
And that concludes the written communications.
We are now under oral communications. Anyone from the public may address council, step up to the podium, sign in, and direct your questions to myself. Okay, seeing none, we are now under motions. Are there any motions for this evening? Seeing now, we are now under resolutions and ordinances.
Okay, this evening we have no resolutions, but we do have ordinance number 2024-24, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $5,550 into the state highway improvement budget fund.
This is the third reading of ordinance 24-24. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for passage of ordinance 24-24.
Is there a second? Councilmember Horniman.
I'll second that motion, Madam President.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2024-24. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Horniman.
It's my understanding that this ordinance is for that West Market safety study and putting the funds in that in place to do that. So that is where that money is going to go to.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
And Thacker.
Yes. Ordinance 2024-24 passes the vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 2024-25, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $5,000 into the TIF 2 South Schaefer Park Drive Fund budget.
This is the third reading of ordinance 24-25. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for the passage of ordinance 24-25.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilmember Hayes.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2024-25. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
And Thacker.
Yes. Ordinance 2024-25 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 2024-27, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $500 into the police budget.
This is the third reading of ordinance 2024-27. Councilmember Reesner.
I move for the passage of ordinance 24-27.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Jones.
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2024-27. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Horniman.
It's just to kind of echo the finance director's, she talked about it when she was going through stuff and everything. This is a reimbursement for scrap metal sales that the police department did. They're going to use this money for vehicle maintenance, is my understanding.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
And Thacker.
Yes. Ordinance 2024-27 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 2024-31, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $650 into the park budget.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2024-31.
Ordinance number 2024-32, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $100,000 into the sewer fund budget.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2024-32.
City of Tiffin, ordinance, the title's on there. Ordinance number 2024-33, introduced by Kevin Reesner. An ordinance authorizing the transfer of $146,000 from the Capital Improvements Fund to the 2022 Street Improvement Bonds Fund, payment of the bond, and declaring an emergency.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-33. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for the immediate passage of ordinance 2024-33, suspending city council's three reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilmember Horniman?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there is a motion to pass ordinance 2024-33, suspending council's three reading rule and declaring an emergency. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension first.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Reesner,
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
and Thacker.
Yes. The suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll on the emergency.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Reesner,
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
and Thacker.
Yes. The emergency passes with a vote of 6-0. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage of ordinance 2024-33.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Reesner,
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
and Thacker.
Yes. Ordinance 2024-33 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 2024-34, introduced by John Hayes, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or Tiffin Seneca Economic Partnership to apply to and receive from the Ohio Department of Development, Office of Community Development for a Small Cities Community Development Block Grant for qualifying projects and allowable administrative expenses, authorizing bidding and executing of contracts as needed, and declaring an emergency.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-34.
Ordinance number 2024-35, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $10,000 into the council clerk budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-35. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for the immediate passage of ordinance 2024-35, suspending city council's three reading rule.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilmember Jones?
I second the motion.
There is a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2024-35, suspending council's three reading rule. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Reesner,
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
and Thacker.
Yes. The suspension passes with a vote of 6-0. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yep.
Jones,
Yes.
Reesner,
Yes.
Snee, and
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes. Ordinance 2024-35 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance number 2024-36, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate $8,648 into the police budget and $663 into the park budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2024-36. We are now, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that concludes the legislation.
Thank you. We are now under other business. As we ran out of time during the committee of the whole, I would like to discuss this petition. From what I understand, I talked with Matt Watson. He's available next Monday afternoon. Are you available, Mayor, at the same time, 5:30 p.m. on Monday?
Hope so.
Nick? Okay. And the rest of the committee, -1, is available. So I think we will stick with next Monday as long as you're available too. Okay. Then I will announce a street sidewalk sewers meeting on Monday, April 22nd, to discuss petition number 2024-01 and any other business that comes before the committee at 5:30 p.m. It will be on site at 73 Frost Parkway to discuss an alley vacation. Is there any other business to come before this committee?
You should have a public hearing announced for the petition.
I thought we usually did that after we had the legislation.
Is it after?
After it's
Okay.
introduced.
And would you please reach out to all of the department heads?
I will send out the form that we
Okay,
do for their
thank you.
approval. Yeah.
Thank you.
You should have that before
Okay,
the
great.
on-site meeting.
Anything else? Seeing none, we are adjourned at 8:28. Thank you so much.